Hi, everyone. This is Alan Beaulieu from ITR Economics, and I'd like to talk to you about China and Europe. And there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of things people, including me, think we know, but the numbers are pretty interesting. And we'll see what they have to say. For instance, foreign direct investment into the United States. That's businesses overseas spending money to move to the United States, do a joint venture, or to buy a U.S. company. And sometimes there's this fear that China is buying the US. I got this question just the other week about China buying the US. That would be foreign direct investment. Well, at the end of 2021, the latest available data, it was $38.25 billion that businesses in China invested in the United States to do one of those three things I just mentioned. That's just shy of the December 2019 record high. It's a significant amount of money then. But the amount of money coming into the United States from Europe that same time period, 2021, was $3.19 trillion. I mean, that's incredible. So we had 83 times more money coming in from Europe than we did from China. And I dare say that most of us didn't even realize that that was happening. European businesses were investing very, very heavily in the United States, and that bond between us just got tighter. And how about the other way around? The United States, where are we investing? Where's our FDI going? Well, $118.2 billion went to China. That's a record high. So we've never had more money going into China. But the rate of change was at 2.7% in phase C, the lowest we've seen in 18 months. That's a lot of money, though. $118.2 billion sure is. But how about the money that went into Europe in that same time period? That was $3.98 trillion, or 33.7 times more than what went into China. So Europe's pouring it in, and the United States is shoving it back to Europe, and our bonds had never been tighter and stronger through this time period. That's pretty amazing. There's lots of reasons for it: supply chain difficulties, the mounting pressures in business, in the economic stress that China and US are feeling towards each other. It is a difficult time in our relationship. COVID response in China made it difficult for a lot of businesses, and President Xi Jinping is making statements that can be chilling to a lot of businesses. So as all that's going on, we find ourselves naturally turning to Europe. But you say, what about our trade with the different nations? Sure, there's that business money flowing back and forth, but what about trade? That's a very good question. Now, exports to the United States from China are $155.7 billion. That's also a record high. So we've never had more coming in. So that chilling of trade isn't all that chilling if it's at a record high, right? But the amount of money, trade we have, our exports to China are at $155.7 billion. That's a record high. It is indeed a lot of money. It's slowing in its rate of rise with the 12 at 2.7%. That's the lowest we've seen in 18 months, but it's still a lot of money. It's a record high. Now, the amount of exports to Europe stand at $334.3 billion, 2 times more than what we were exporting to China. That's a pretty impressive thing. And I bet I'm going to guess most of you didn't know that. I know I didn't. I was really pleased to see the number. The 12/12 rate of change is at 30.3% above 2020 levels. That's a record high. So we have twice the exports going to Europe. How about the imports? Well, we have $563.9 billion coming into the US from China. That's a record high also. But we have $532.3 billion coming in from Europe. China's got an edge there, got a little edge. But when you balance out what we are sending to Europe, what we're getting in from Europe, our biggest trading partner is Europe. And what's the moral of the story? Well, the world's changing. And as the world's changing, it means maybe your sourcing needs to be rethought. Maybe your investment strategy needs to be gone through again. So why am I bringing this up? Because the world's a changing place. There's a shift in focus from the China focus to Europe focus, to a longer term history, perhaps. Certainly supply chain ease, less risk. I would argue with that. Long-term relationships, easier to understand, strong historical ties. That certainly helps. But I would also say it's because there's some changes going on in China, the supply chain difficulties we've seen, the response to COVID. That's why you see our eastern ports are still very, very busy, and our western seaports are seeing a lot less traffic. We've turned to Europe, and the business tie is strong, and the relationship is getting stronger. And it may be a trend that you want to take advantage of. It may be a trend that you want to jump on, or at least one that you can capitalize on as you go forward. And to all of us that are doing business in Europe, it just means that that relationship is not going to be tested the same way that it may be tested from other nations. I think it's good news. China and Europe. And the winner is Europe. Have a great day. Thank you very much. I'm Alan Beaulieu for Trends Talk from ITR Economics.